Okay? What does creator mean? It's what I started with. He designed our DNA. He designed the unchangeable features about us. One of the greatest things in life is to just thank him for who he made us, how he made us, what family he put us into. You know, I kind of used to be jealous of adopted kids. Adopted children, their parents picked them out. My parents didn't pick me, and they let me know it. I was in so much trouble when I was little. I used to get paddled. They used to allow that in America. I used to have to lean over the principal's desk, and they would bring out this great big, seems like that big, but I don't know how big it was. Whack! They would paddle you for doing very minor things. I remember one time I brought matches to school, and I lit them and put them in the trash cans and started the trash on fire. And it emptied the whole school. I thought it was so much fun. I got to spend the whole afternoon on the playground. Whack! Really got one for that. I remember this is what the ceilings looked like. They were much lower, but these girders, these support beams, I used to take the girls' purses, and girls used to take purses to school. I'd throw them till they got caught up in the, boy, they gave me a spank for that. I mean, I was really bad. And my parents didn't like always getting called in because I was so bad in school. By the way, I shouldn't tell you. How many minutes do I have? I'll just tell you one quick story. I trained under a pastor in California who's, just a wonderful Bible teacher. He went to my school, Bob Jones University. That's how I met him. And his father was a board member. His name is John MacArthur. In fact, I came with John here. That's the first time I spoke at Word of Life in 1987. I spoke here. And then I went from here to the Word of Life Bible Institute in Brazil, or in Argentina, And then, we went all over the place. But you know what John MacArthur used to do when he was in high school? They had those big 1950 Chevys with big bumpers, those big shiny metal bumpers. And that was just when braces were getting started, and kids that were wealthy had metal. They didn't have plastic. They had metal braces on their teeth. And John hooked up a starter, a solenoid starter that would give a jolt like that to his bumper. And he would drive his car up until his bumper touched the bumper of the car in front of him. So there was a connection of the electricity. And he said back then in California, there was no air conditioning. I remember when air conditioning started in Carson, so everybody had their arm out the window. He said, and this big burly California blonde guy, surfer, would have his arm out the window on the same metal trim that was connected to the bumper, that was connected all the way to the cars were made out of metal, not plastic back then. So he would make a connection. And he said, and the young lady would have her arm out the window like this, and they'd both be wearing braces, and he said they'd turn like this, and just as they were going to kiss, he'd push the button, and he said the electricity would arc between their braces and go like that, make a spark between them. And the girls used to think that the guy was the most amazing kisser in the world, and it was actually John juicing them with his solenoid starter touching their bumpers. Now that's bad. I never did anything like that. But we were designed by him and put into the family he knew we needed to be into. So I hope you realize, whatever family you're in and whatever we look like, but look what happens. From Genesis 3 on, God is showing us, he goes through this world an arm's length away from everybody, buying all who will call on the name of the Lord to be saved and believe on him. And once he buys us, we're bought for him, and so someday we're going to answer to him. And that's the whole outline of the Bible. Now look at this. It answers the three biggest questions. Origin, everybody wants to know, how did I get here? Why am I here? Where am I going? The Bible is designed to answer those, to show us our origin, our purpose, and our destiny. And I'll just throw this in. This was from that pastor that used to zap people with his car. This was his favorite message. God's will is mentioned in the Scriptures 6 times. It's God's will, 2 Peter 3:9, he's not willing that any should perish. He wants us to get saved. He wants us to be Spirit-filled, be not drunk with wine. He wants us to get sanctified. The very God of peace sanctify you wholly. He wants us to get submissive, Peter tells us. He wants us to get suffering, to be willing to suffer for his name, and in everything to get give thanks. He wants us to be satisfied. Do you know, I meet so many kids and they say, I just don't know what the will of the Lord is. I say to them, well, number one, are you saved? Okay? Are you emptying yourself of all, repenting of all known sin and inviting the Holy Spirit to fill you? Are you allowing him to change you? Do you know what sanctification means? Being useful to God. That's what it means. Are you useful to God? Do you stand in your circle? He wants us to be submissive. How are you going to be a great Christian if you can't submit to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, and every ordinance of the school, and every ordinance of, the law around us and the government? We are supposed to be the most submissive people on earth. You know what America teaches? Be independent and do your own thing. You know what God teaches? Don't be independent and don't do your own thing. Submit to me and the powers that be. That's a conflict. We're supposed to speak up for Christ and suffer and go through life satisfied, thankful.